In other words, how many days is he up there teaching? I don't know if I have it right, can pull it out. Is it 2 or 3 days? I don't remember how many days he's there before he leaves. Anyway, the point is that he has control of the temple at this point. He's pictured as having control of the temple at this point, and he is so powerful that he can interrupt commerce in the temple. So his band, or whoever is with him, his followers, have taken over the temple. If you follow Mark, I mean, it's not in John, and John places the whole episode when anyway, at the beginning of his ministry 3 years before. It's in John 2. It's right at the beginning. So that's a problem between the two episodes, unless there were 2 takeovers of the temple, which is probably not probably very believable. Now, he couldn't do this except in the miracle-minded people without a powerful force, is what most commentators think. And most commentators call this Jesus' attack on the temple and consider this the reason for his arrest. And that's how it's presented in the Synoptics. Obviously, if someone did this in the temple, the authorities would deal with him afterwards. Roman and Jewish, whichever, together, however. You can't have people, you know. It's like this North Vietnamese taking over Hue. If you remember the Vietnam War, the Americans are not going to let them take over the holy city of Hue. And they marched down there with Marine battalions and cleaned that place out, like, completely. That was the Tet Offensive, if you recall. You don't take over these things in the real world. You know, this is very charming, but you know this is not very historically precise, put it that way. You know, there's much more going on. If this is accurate, I don't know if it is. That's you have to judge. If you know anything about merchants and people of that kind, and particularly in the Middle East, but almost anywhere, if you go up and turn over their money tables, I had this problem in India when I was there. I didn't pay someone for his soft drink, what he wanted. The guy almost had me pursued by mobs of people through the market. Like once I was in Italy, and they were charging me for my coffee 3 times what I was supposed to be charged, and I got up and just put down what it was supposed to be and walked around, and the man ran after me for almost 2 miles. You know, when I was on a bicycle, and he's grabbing the handlebars of my bicycle. You can't deal with merchants like this. You never meet a merchant who lets you get out of his shop without paying or getting violent as a result of it. It just doesn't happen. So, this is either miraculous material or unrealistic or novelization or romanticization, however you want to put it, or miraculous, as we just said, and that's how most people take it. But this would cause huge consternation, this kind of thing. I often used to compare it in my younger days here to going down to San Diego Wild Animal Park and going into the tourist center there and overturning all the tables there with the stuffed animals and the cash registers and saying, you shall not do commercial activities in my father's animal park. And see what would happen to you there, if you tried to do that. And that's a nice place, San Diego Wild Animal Park. It's supposed to be a reserve. You can't go into the tourist shop there and overturn all the money tables. Now you're looking at me with consternation. I'm sorry. Think about it. That's all I can tell you. Decide for yourself. I'm not trying to say it did or didn't happen. That's up to you. But there's more to it if it did happen, and so on. Anyway, let's carry on here. So we're at Mark 21, and this is taken by most scholars as the trigger of the arrest. So now we have Matthew 21 here, about the fig tree, more about casting. Notice all the casting materials that you just should catalog all things about casting. Cast into a furnace of fire, casting down, casting out. I've done that in some of my work, and it's a very fruitful thing to do. And so Matthew 21 continues with the priests, the scribes, the elders coming and harassing him. and he's talking about John here. You can read that for yourself. Matthew 21:28. I'm trying to skip through to the important events here. Some more parables. But you see the Matthew 21:28 material, which is not paralleled in Mark or Luke or John, has an interesting little conclusion which we're used to by now. Verily I say unto you, the publicans and the harlots go into the kingdom of God before you. There is the typical refrain. And I've mentioned it before. For John came in the way of righteousness. That we can all agree on that John came in the way of righteousness. But the publicans and the harlots believed on him. Well, that's just nonsense. The publicans and the harlots didn't believe on John. The publicans and the harlots caused his death. The harlots are Herodias. The publican is Herod Antipas, and they're involved in his death, you know. And John was against their fornication and things like that in all contexts. So I mean that's nice sounding phrases for the believer, but I don't think it holds up to anything that happened historically, and I don't think Jesus would have said that in any case. But again, it's all for the Pauline mission. Remember in the book of Acts, as I told you, after Paul is sent down to Agrippa I's palace, Agrippa II's palace in Caesarea, under protective custody because the people in the temple want to kill him because he's introducing non-Jews into the temple. Remember all that? And it's not nice to want to kill people for introducing non-Jews into the temple. I mightily agree with you, but those were the rules in the Middle East at that time for holy places. And where do those rules still function? In Mecca today. You can't go into Mecca at all as a non-Muslim. You'll be killed. Today, for PR reasons, they might escort you out kindly, but if you want to read what the situation was like in the last century, read Charles Doughty, Travels in Deserta Arabia, when he sneaks into Mecca, or he tries to, or he doesn't even, he's bypassing it and they want to kill him. He's the inspiration for Lawrence of Arabia. He's a British poet. It's a great book. T.E. Lawrence took all his inspiration from this book. It could be Arabia Deserta, or it's really this way. It travels in Arabia Deserta, deserted Arabia. And you want to see what Mecca was like up until the oil companies came in, and even now you can't go to Mecca on pain of death, or the whole precincts are forbidden. Same for Medina. Some of you are looking at me surprised. No, you can't enter Medina or Mecca as a non-Muslim on pain of death.